Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Everyday Joy podcast. I'm your host, Ash Owen, and I cannot wait to find moments of joy with you today. I am so excited to dive into the Word of God, so why don't you grab your cup of tea, grab your coffee, put your AirPods in, and let's get ready to dive into the Word of God.
Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and He will establish your plans. That's Proverbs 16, verse 3 from the NIV Bible.
Jackie.
Hi, Ash.
Still so good to have you here.
Still so good.
I just if I could hang out with you all the time, I would.
I know, we were talking about rejoicing and being glad yesterday.
Yeah.
And I really feel like that's the moment that I'm having right now. I'm rejoicing and being glad in
Me
this
too.
because I love being here with you.
It's so good.
Yeah.
I think that, when we were looking at this verse, we were reading in literally 6 chapters earlier. It says that line where it says, in their hearts, humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps.
Yeah.
And it's this whole picture. They work in this perfect kind of mesh of being, we can come up with plans and ideas, and we want to make sure that they're God-inspired ideas.
Yeah.
But we don't have to have it all figured out.
Yeah.
We don't have to plan it all. All this verse is saying is just commit your plans to God.
Right.
Commit your thoughts, your dreams, your plans, your heart, everything to God, and He will figure it out. He will figure it out.
Yeah.
And I think that when you are willing to lay down what you think success or goodness or
just what you
think you should be doing.
Right.
And it's not saying that what you think you should be doing is wrong.
No, not at all.
It's actually saying, okay, God, I'm gonna do this because I love this, or I think this is what you're asking me to do.
Yeah.
But I'm committed it to you. So if you at any point say, hey, no, come this way, turn down this road, let's kind of slightly go in this direction, you're not holding so tightly to those plans that you're not willing to go where God is calling you to go.
Yeah. So when I went back to work after having kids, I was at church one Sunday, and we had a preacher who was visiting from, I think it was the States maybe, and he gave a sermon, and it was on pretty much this, committing your plans to the Lord, but he was talking about just do what's in front of you. So, and he said, look, when I was younger, I just wanted to be a preacher. And I thought it had a particular
a linear sort of
trajectory, right? So I wanted to go from point A to point B. And it was going to be this straight linear line of projection from where I was to where I was going. And then I got asked to be a youth pastor. And he was like, I did not want to be
this ain't where
pastor.
I want
to go. And that's a fairly traditional, fairly standard, part of experience. But that all by the by, he didn't want to do it. But he had committed his plans to the Lord.
Yeah.
And he'd committed himself, and he'd committed his desires, and he'd committed his calling to the Lord. And he said, so what actually ended up happening, you see me now here on this stage before you, preaching to you, doing what I dreamed I would be doing. But that pathway that took me there was so convoluted and so back and forth and diagonal and up and down and over here and then over here. And I feel like I went from point A to point Z, and then I went to point, F, and then I went to point, Y, and then I came back to B, and then, all this stuff. And I remember about a week after that, I got offered a job. And it was as a travel agent. So I was running a small corporate travel agency. Now, I had applied for this job, and I committed that to the Lord. I had never worked in this industry before, wasn't trained. I'd traveled myself. I was like, hey, I know how to do this.
You're like, I can get on a plane.
I can get on this. Hey. But, I got the job. And I was told that the only reason I got the job was because in my application I'd said, I don't know anything, but hey, I've researched these courses that I can do because I've committed this to God. And then I was hired. And I was like, well, that was unexpected. I never thought I wanted to do that. I did that for 3-4 years, got another job as a coordinator for an international aid, a travel coordinator for an international aid agency. And then a year later than that, I was doing project management again, which was what my previous career was.
Wow.
And if you'd then told me that even another 5 years down the track, I'd be sitting here doing a podcast.
Yeah.
What the heck?
Yeah.
None of that was my plan.
Totally.
None of that was, but am I doing things that I really wanted to do? Yes.
Yeah.
So amazing. You commit that to God and he just like, yep, I'm going to take you there, but oh man, are we going to have fun on the way?
I've heard this thing said before where sometimes God doesn't show you your future or show you where you'll end up because where you're at that time, you're just not ready for it.
And you can't even see
and you can't see it and you can't fathom it. And you would probably make decisions that wouldn't lead you there because it seems so scary and out of your capacity at the time. And I think that's so much what this verse is saying. If you commit what you do, like exactly that you said, Jack, if you just commit to God and you trust him wholeheartedly, right, that he will work it out. He will guide your steps. He has a good plan for your life. He really does work it out.
Yep.
And we wouldn't ever have imagined that we would be sitting here today. Never.
Yep.
Like we were kind of talking about how I was saying that prior to coming and doing this podcast and working at the radio station, I was on a trajectory to do musical theatre. That was my goal. I wanted to do professional theatre. I was like, I'm going to go study at a musical theatre school. I was even considering moving far away to do it. And I was just, getting every opportunity that I could so that I could get where I wanted to go. And as we were talking about it earlier, I had this moment of going, I don't think I ever committed it to God. It was a dream that I had that I wanted to do because one, I was good at it. I enjoyed it. I loved it, which isn't a bad thing. But I don't think I ever went, okay, God, like if you want me to walk away from this, or like, is this the plan that you have for me? I never asked those questions. I was just like, I'm going to do this because that's what I want to do.
Yeah. I really like it.
I really like it, which isn't necessarily always a bad thing. But for me, I knew I hadn't invited God into these plans.
Yeah.
And then, good old lockdown happened and all of my plans got put on hold. A year of lockdowns happened and I had committed to doing like an internship at my church. I just served for a year, had nothing else to do like many of us. I came to the second year of lockdowns and also I had been offered to do this second year of internship. And I wrestled with this. Because in my head, the year before was a buffer year that wouldn't impact my trajectory to become a musical theatre performer. It was a pause. The whole world was on pause. It wasn't a massive issue. I'll work it out. For some reason, I really understood the weight of saying yes this second year. And I battled with it forever. And I had this moment where I was like, okay, Lord, I know that whatever you have for me is good. But if musical theatre and if being a professional performer right now isn't your plan for me, I need you to help me commit this to you and lay this dream down for now. And I remember having a very emotional conversation. My poor pastor, he wasn't asking me to like tear my dreams apart in front of him. Yeah. But for me, I knew internally I had to make a decision. I sobbed that entire meeting, my poor pastor. Yeah. Because for me, it wasn't just saying yes to this step. It was literally laying down this dream from when I was literally in grade 5. Yeah. And I was like, it was a real internal battle. And up until that moment, it was the hardest thing ever. But what's crazy is the moment I made that decision, I have never had so many open doors in my life. Like it was like up until the moment I actually handed it over to God, I was treading water in my career. I had no idea what I was doing. And
it's exactly what we were talking about in the difference in how you approach it and the difference in that relational aspect of it as well. So you could have gone out and done musical theatre and be the sole Christian in a whole theatre company and thought, yep, I'm just going to be the weird one that has these beliefs and talk to everybody about it.
Totally.
And they're all just going to have to put up with me
Yeah.
being like that. Or I can go where that part of my calling, where that, mission-oriented, ministry-focused part of my calling is valued, seen, discipled, really encouraged.
Totally.
And I can actually reach thousands of people,
Totally.
if not hundreds of thousands of people, with the message of Jesus.
Yeah.
And how we can live our lives committed to him, having him establish our plans, and look at the immense difference. We will never know until we get to heaven what that impact was.
Yeah.
And it's going to be massive.
Totally. All these things have not equaled to nothing.
No.
He's literally gathered every single dream, picture, every single thing that I thought looked like a career in musical theatre has been given a 180. And although it didn't look how I thought it was, when I committed my plans to him, he established them.
And this is a really cool thing that a friend of mine said to me when I was getting to the point where I'd sort of conquered travel, this travel game. And I was like, I'm
I got this.
confident in what I'm doing. And now I'm bored. What do? I'm trapped. I'm trapped in this being a travel agent now because I haven't used my other skills for so long. I remember a really wise friend saying to me, God never wastes anything. Every experience, everything he asks you to do is for a purpose. And not only did that experience lead me to what I'm doing now, but it gave me all sorts of skills in analytical thinking, in being strategic about things, in time management, in dealing with different types of people, all sorts of things. None of it was wasted.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. He's got it. We can't fathom what he's got planned for us and how he's going to use the gifts that we've got. But it's only when we partner with him, and it's only when we take that action as well and we commit our actions to him, and he's got it. It's all unfolding, and it's all his great plan, and it's all for Jesus.
Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and he will establish your plans. Proverbs 16 verse 3. Today's chat with Jacquie is such an eye-opener to reflect on maybe what I thought was difficult times of the past, but to remember that God works it all out. Maybe you're in a situation where you just don't know what to do. You're feeling overwhelmed. Maybe you're sitting there with options for careers, options for maybe what school it is you're sending your kids to. Maybe it's about relationships. Whatever it is, commit your plans to the Lord and he will establish them. It's okay not to understand. Like Jack and I said, sometimes God doesn't show us exactly where he's taking us because we would be too stressed out, too freaked out, too overwhelmed to step in the direction that he has for us. It's okay to not understand. Whatever you do today, commit it to the Lord. He will establish your plans. You don't have to figure it all out yet. Just know that he has you in the palm of his hands. I cannot wait to chat with you even more tomorrow. We're going to keep diving deep into the Word of God. But until then, I pray you're able to find moments of joy.